Hi everyone. This is part 5 and my final story for my top 5 creepiest Wikipedia posts. This one is a lot less horrible. I mean, it's horrible, but it's not as disturbing, I would say, than the last one about Tim McLean. That one was just horrible and very disturbing. This one is more of a mystery. Most people do like mysteries. I don't know if it's really paranormal. It's a very interesting story. So without further ado, number 5 is the Eilean Mor Lighthouse mystery. On a remote island located in the Flannan Isles, there remains a 114-year-old mystery that is yet to be solved. The mystery of the Eilean Mor Lighthouse. The island had a well-known reputation for being haunted, and though used as a grazing field for sheep, no person would dare inhabit the island come darkfall, fearful of the spirits said to haunt the remote spot. The lighthouse was built in 1899 atop the highest location on the island. A year later, tragedy would befall the 3 lighthouse keepers that maintained the newly built lighthouse. On December 15, 1900, the lighthouse went dark. An investigation of the lighthouse on December 26th showed no sign of the 3 lighthouse keepers. But where had they gone? I mean, they were on an island. There was no boats, treacherous waters all around them, so what happened to the 3 lighthouse keepers? The island was very small, and with the exception of the lighthouse keepers and a variety of birds, there were no other inhabitants. It was odd that they would all be missing, since there are rules stating that one keeper must remain in the lighthouse at all times. And if by chance something did happen, where were the bodies? Were they swallowed up by the sea, maybe? Or perhaps they were abducted by UFOs. Or was it the Loch Ness Monster? Because the Loch Ness Monster does share the same waters as the Eilean Mor Lighthouse. There have been many speculations made about the incident over time, but the mystery still remains just that. Although no trace of the men were ever found, the clues they left behind only lead to more questions. An unfinished meal sat at the table, and the kitchen chair that would have sat the consumer was found toppled over on its side, as if somebody jumped up from their dinner in a panic. One of the weirdest things noted was that the clock in the lighthouse had stopped working, but the chilling entries in the logbook leading up to the day of the 3 men's disappearance was the most peculiar. The second assistant of the lighthouse, Thomas Marshall, wrote of, quote, "severe winds, the likes of which I had never seen before in 20 years, unquote. He also noticed that James Ducat, the principal keeper, had been, quote, very quiet, unquote, and that the third assistant, William MacArthur, had been crying, which was most peculiar since William MacArthur was a seasoned mariner, and he was known on the Scottish mainland as a tough brawler. So why would he be crying about a storm? Log entries on the 13th of December stated that the storm was still raging and that all 3 men had been praying. But why would 3 experienced lighthouse keepers, safely situated on a brand new lighthouse that was 150 feet above sea level, be praying for a storm to stop? They should have been perfectly safe. I mean, what kind of storm was this? Even more peculiar is that there were no reported storms in the area on the 12th, 13th, and 14th of December. In fact, the weather was calm, and the storms that were to batter the island didn't hit until December 17th. So here's these men are writing about a storm that happened on the 13th, when no other regions in the area had seen a storm until the 17th. The final log entry was made on the 15th of December. It simply read, quote, "storm ended, sea calm. God is over all," unquote. That's the day the lighthouse went dark. So that's it for my top 5 Wikipedias that really creeped me out. I hope you enjoy it. I will leave you with a poem written a long time ago about the Eilean Mor Lighthouse mystery. Thanks for watching! Though 3 men dwell on Flannan Isle to keep the lamp alight, as we steered under the lee we caught no glimmer through the night. A passing ship at dawn had brought the news, and quickly we set sail to find out what strange thing might ail the keepers of the deep sea light. The winter day broke blue and bright, with glancing sun and glancing spray, as o'er the swell our boat made way, as gallant as a gull in flight. But as we neared the lonely isle, and looked up at the naked height, and saw the lighthouse towering white, with blinded lantern that all night had never shot a spark of comfort through the dark, so ghostly in the cold sunlight, it seemed that we were struck the while with wonder all too dread for words, as into the tiny creek we stole beneath the hanging crag, we saw 3 queer black ugly birds, too big by far in my belief for guillemot or shag, like seamen sitting bolt upright upon a half-tide reef. But as we neared they plunged from sight without a sound or spurt of white. And still too mazed to speak, we landed and made fast the boat, and climbed the track in single file, each wishing he was safe afloat on any sea, however far. So it be far from the Flannan Isle, and still we seemed to climb and climb, as though we'd lost all count of time, and so must climb for evermore. Yet all too soon we reached the door, the black sun-blistering lighthouse door, that gaped for us ajar. As on the threshold for a spell we paused, we seemed to breathe the smell of lime-wash and of tar, familiar as our daily breath, as though 'twere some strange scent of death. And so, yet wondering side by side, we stood a moment, still tongue-tied, and each with a black foreboding eyed the door ere we should fling it wide, to leave the sunlight for the gloom, till plucking courage up at last, hard on each other's heels we passed into the living room. Yet as we crowded through the door, we only saw a table spread for dinner, meat and cheese and bread, but all untouched, and no one there, as though they sat down to eat ere they could even taste. Alarm had come, and they in haste had risen and left the bread and meat, for at the table head a chair lay tumbled on the floor. We listened, but we only heard the feeble cheeping of a bird that starved upon its perch, and listening still without a word, we set about our hopeless search. We hunted high, we hunted low, and soon ransacked the empty house. Then o'er the island to and fro we ranged to listen and to look, in every cranny, cleft or nook that might have hid a bird or mouse. But though we searched from shore to shore, we found no sign in any place, and soon again stood face to face before the gaping door, and stole into the room once more, as frightened children steal. Aye, though we hunted high and low, and hunted everywhere, of the 3 men's fate we found no trace of any kind in any place, but a door ajar, and an untouched meal, in an overtoppled chair. As we listened in the gloom of that forsaken living room, a chill clutch on our breath, we thought how ill chance came to all who kept the Flannan light, and how the rock had been the death of many a likely lad, how 6 had come to a sudden end, and 3 had gone stark mad, and one whom we'd all known as friend had leapt from the lantern one still night, and fallen dead by the lighthouse wall. And long we thought on the 3 we sought, and of what might yet befall. Like curs a glance has brought to heel, we listened flinched there, and looked on the untouched meal, and the overtoppled chair. We seemed to stand for an endless while, though still no word was said, 3 men alive on Flannan Isle, who thought on 3 men dead. Flannan Isle by Wilfred Wilson Gibson.